I'm here with Candace Waller. Candace writes African-American Christian fiction. She's published more than 300 newspaper articles. She's also written for Black Enterprise magazine, and she received a master's degree in digital publishing from New York University. She divides her time working in communications and writing. She also runs a nonprofit dance group called Why We Dance. So you can check out all of her work on www.candacewaller.com. So Candace, it's so great to have you here with us today.
I'm so honored to be your guest today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Before we start talking about your new book, I mean, maybe you can give people a little bit more deeper background than what I just, touched on.
Well, I always loved to write, and I started writing poetry and short stories as a kid. And then I got into journalism. I really wanted to be the next Lois Lane. I thought I was going to be whatever. Anybody who went to school with me, I started off as a sports reporter. So I would try to get these people to talk to me. I'm this little person. I'm only like 5'1", and I'd be running after these athletes saying, "Can you give me an interview? Can you?" And I'd be like, "Who is this girl? She's always asking questions. She's very nosy," because I wanted to be a reporter and I really loved it. And I was doing that for a while. I worked for the sports, but then newspapers started to change. We started to see things going online, and it really wasn't as viable a career as it had been. So I said, you know what? I'm looking at the signs and I'm thinking, I got to do something. Because what does the Bible say? It says, the wise man sees trouble and avoids it. And the foolish person sees it and just keeps going. And I'm like, if I keep going down this road, it's not going to be a good career for me because I'm seeing that everything's going online. So I said, okay, I was in newspaper. I was writing articles in Black Enterprise. I was working for several daily newspapers in New Jersey. The Courier I had stuff in, NJN Publishing. I had done an internship in the Trenton Times where
Hmm.
I did a feature on, Black people playing baseball before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, the Negro Leagues. I didn't even know there was a Negro team in Trenton. So I was doing all that for a while. And then I said, well, how can I transition into an online area? And that's when I went to NYU and I got my master's degree in digital publishing. So then
That had to be a great experience.
yeah, it was. I got all my professors were from like Time Warner and HarperCollins. And it was hard at times, really, really hard because, these people they're in the business and their expectations and what they wanted. But I learned a lot and it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And from there, I started working for publishing housing. Like I was at Time Warner that became Hachette and I did like their Christian books and I did African American fiction and I was a publicist.
Okay.
So, and I worked for Workman Publishing and then Pearson, I was there. So I did all that publishing thing.
Oh, that had to be a great experience
That
too.
was the two, working with, and other, like I met, Pam Perry, who I really admire a lot, and
Yes.
learned from them and worked with different authors and learned about that kind of relationship and how to like market. And I was like fearless there too, because I was the girl that had the camera and everywhere they went, I was taking pictures and asking questions and they were like, who is this person? But a lot of my stuff was able to get into different publications because we're very visual. So if you're taking pictures and you're doing short things, you're able to get in stuff. Oh, I have a photo for that, or I have this, or I have that. And I was known for my working with writers because I would try stuff with them. Oh, let's pitch it here. Let's try here. And I would pitch them all over the place. Now, I didn't always get coverage in these places, but sometimes I would get people who would not normally get in something because if you don't try, you'll never get it. So if I tried, I may have a chance of getting you to get this writer in their magazine, right? And so that's how I started with that. But in the back of my mind, I was always writing my own story. And I was like, oh, whatever, I don't know. I'm writing this story and it was fiction. And I kept writing and writing as I was promoting. And then I transitioned again. I was like, well, I got out of the publishing for a while because that's really cutthroat, long hours, whatever. I became like a teacher working in that and doing corporate. And I was writing and I was writing and I was writing. So I had this manuscript and I was like, oh, I have this book. And anyway, they had NaNoWriMo and it was like 2016. And I met this young woman at NaNoWriMo. And I was like, oh, I've written this book. And she said, I'm writing too. So I said, why don't we get together and meet every week and work on our projects? And we did that for maybe 8 months. And during that 8 months, I finished my first novel, What Goes Around Comes Around. and I started another novel called How Marguerite Becomes Rita. And I published a book and had done all that in the time working with her. So I say that to say that you just always have to be open, because I didn't know this woman before I met her at NaNoWriMo.
That's great. That's really cool that, you've taken the initiative, a
Yeah,
lot of different times in your life already,
yeah, you
you
try.
know, to go do new things. And so, I admire anyone who does. So you self-published those first two books, right?
Yes.
So can you tell people that aren't familiar with that,
Mhm.
what that process looks like?
Well, I did, because I had a publishing background, I felt comfortable doing a lot of it by myself. Like I hired an editor to help me tighten everything up, because even though I did editing and I wrote well, I wanted to catch little typos and stuff, and I didn't want to do that myself. So I hired someone to do that, and then I hired someone to lay it out. And so, I mean, so my expenses were relatively low compared to other people who self-publish, because I wrote the book. So for someone to do proofing, you probably can get that done for under $300 for a book. And then for layout, you probably can get that done for definitely under 75 to 100. I mean, it's not going to be that much for them to lay out your book. So that's what I kind of put together. And then I had someone help me do the cover. And he did the cover, and a good cover design, decent one, I don't know, $50, $100. And he was starting out, so he kind of scaled low for me. And then I got someone else to kind of fix it. But so I kept my expenses for
Yeah,
me.
those are very reasonable prices.
They're reasonable prices because it was networking. I work with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who were trying to get started like me, and that's how I do it. And I think one of the things that helped me is definitely writing groups, conferences like the one you have, Publishing in Color, because you meet people who are doing the same thing you're doing, and you can work with them and find out how to do it. Like I didn't maybe get the top person editor, but I got someone that was pretty good that helped me get my book ready
Sure, sure.
and the cover.
So then which self-publishing platform did you use to actually get it produced?
First platform I used was 48 Hour Books.
Okay.
I used that one. And then, I did that. And then I was like, I transitioned everything to Amazon, because I found out that half of all books sold online are sold through Amazon. So you might as
More
well,
than half now, I think.
yeah, you might as well be on Amazon. So then they had Create Space back then. They don't have
Right,
that
right.
now. So I went through that and put it online, and that's how I was able to work through that. And I learned, and then I actually applied it. And then I started a blog, my name. So all my little lessons are like in my blog. Like I have articles on how to do marketing, how to write a book, how to be in a book group. I even interview you, how to do a platform.
Yeah, yeah.
All that is my experience that I learned on the web. But I was willing to do that. So my expenses were not like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Like some people are thousands to start their first book.
Yeah.
Mine was a few hundred.
That's excellent. Good for you. Good for you. So tell us about your genre. I mean, I don't work with too many people that write in the area that you write in. So tell us about what that's like.
I love, I like fiction. I like Christian fiction. I look at Victoria Christopher Murray is like one of my favorites, and Kimberly Lawson Roby is another one that I love in the Christian fiction area. And I loved reading those books and the stories of how these people who solve their life's problems from a Christian perspective. So it doesn't mean they're perfect. Like they may have their husbands cheating on them, they fighting with somebody or something, but eventually the Christ in them is going to show through, and that's going to be in the story. So that's what I wanted to write. So that's basically how, I see the genre I'm in. And it's a genre that, like I said, they have real life situations. Sometimes the stories take place in the church. Sometimes there are people that are ambiguous about the church and about God in their lives. So there's various different segments of that genre, but so that's what I consider Christian fiction.
Hmm. And how do you weave spirituality and Christianity kind of into your stories?
Well, it depends. They're all at different levels of, like, in my story, what goes around comes around. My character Nikki is a good girl. She's a church girl. She good. But she got herself in a mess with this husband. Is not working out. So like in the first time you see her, she's like angry and she's trying to solve her problems in a worldly way. I'm going to tell this man off. I'm going to get him to do something. And you know what? That never works. It makes you angry. It just doesn't work for you. So then she started praying, and through her prayers, things were answered for her. Maybe not in the way that she initially wanted it, but it eventually worked itself out. And that's how I was able to weave it from real life situations and seeing how people try to solve their problems.
Cool. Cool. So tell us a little bit about your newest book.
My newest book is a sequel to that. It's called Good Things Come, and it takes place in Puerto Rico. So my main character, her husband is gone, whatever, and she's had this love interest, but they never really kind of established it. So she's Puerto Rican. Her father's Puerto Rican, and she always wanted to know her father's family. So she decided to take a girls trip to Puerto Rico. So you see all the craziness, the adventure. I loved writing it because during this time, like I was stuck in the house. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't get on the flight. You couldn't go anywhere. I was like researching Puerto Rico, the food, the music, the dancing, and this is a beautiful island. And so it talks about her adventure in Puerto Rico, all the drama. You know, when you have 4 girls together, you know somebody is going to get in trouble. It's going to be men trouble and all kind of stuff. And that's what the story is about.
Wow. What do you hope that readers will take away from your books?
I hope that readers take away from all my books that it's, they all have value, because most of my stories start with the women in some way feeling that she's not valued. Like Nikki feels like I'm not valued. My husband doesn't love me, or, this doesn't love me, but God always loves you. So that's your value. And once you understand that you have value, that you can move forward in your life. Now, it may not be what you plan to be, but it still could be a really good thing. So that's what I want people to take away from my book.
Cool. So you juggle a lot of different things. I mean, how do you have the discipline to make sure that you get your writing done?
I think writing groups help me a lot because I meet them on a weekly basis. So I don't like to not have something, because when my first group was just me and this young woman, Claire. So if I didn't have anything, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? We're here to talk about writing. We had no other really connection. She was much younger than me, a different nationality than me. So we probably wouldn't have hung out necessarily because she was a college student and I was already in my career. So the only connection was our writing. So if I didn't have writing to do every week, then, it's kind of a waste of time. So that really kept me on track, because I'd be like, oh, I have to have something for Claire because we're meeting on Monday, and every week I had something. Now, I didn't always love what I had. So people feel that you have to write perfectly. Sometimes I'm like, I don't like what I wrote. This doesn't make sense. I hate it. And she would say, you know what? That may not be good, but this section here, you need to push that out, because that's good. Everything I wrote wasn't perfect, but I kept doing it. And it was like a muscle. If you keep working that muscle, it gets stronger and stronger, and you get better and better. And that's the same thing with writing. So that's how I looked at it. And that's what kept me motivated.
That's cool. Well, unlike many authors, you've got a marketing background in addition to, being a writer. So how do you find, or what do you find to be the best avenues of marketing your book?
Well, I think it's changed a little bit. When I first started out, I would go to a lot of libraries, and I did a lot of within book sales. Like I would bring like 50 books and sell them all. Like I would go to places and sell and book fairs and stuff like that. And then, so that was kind of a good thing, but it wasn't good because I didn't concentrate on online sales. I would get my books, go out and just sell it. But now with, this pandemic, you can't do that. Like it stops, like stop.
Yeah.
Now it's like trying to find the audience online. So that's what I've been working on now. Like I've been doing Facebook Lives, and that's getting your name out there, getting reviews, different promotions. I'm getting ready to do another promotion right now, that kind of thing. And that's how you really are able to do it, because now it's more than ever, it's going to be online sales that are the most important.
Absolutely. No, I think that's, the way the future of connecting with people.
Yeah, you have to do that.
So a lot of the folks that, watch our interviews are people that are not as far along as you are, they're earlier stage. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for someone who's just getting started now?
I think that what I've learned and what's helped me is that you have to, if you're working, most of us are working. Most writers cannot afford to support themselves just by writing. And I tell people, if you can, try to do like even a soft outline of your story, do character sketches, and really get to know the character and story well, so that you can write and set guidelines. Okay, I'm going to write 5 pages a week, and break that down. If are you a morning writer? Do you do better at night? Do you have time on the weekends or a particular day? And set those goals for you. Because once you set goals like that, you can see, people say that's not a lot, but if you add that up, in a year, you have your book written. You know what I mean? Because we are working people. And I think setting goals, being part of groups, so people who are encouraging you will help you get your book finished. Because a lot of times what I found in writing groups is that people don't outline, don't have character sketches, and they get to like the first 10 chapters and then like, I don't know the story. Or I don't like the story. And it's like, you don't like the story because you don't know the story. You don't know the character. The character has to be almost like an extension of your hand. Like what are they doing, how they're doing stuff. And I think that if you don't have that, it's going to be hard to complete the book. You may not outline for every book, but for the first book, you kind of have to set those kind of guidelines until you finish a complete manuscript. And then you know what it feels like and you kind of know your rhythm, if you will.
Well, I really like your approach, Candace, on multiple aspects of this, the marketing part, the writers group part, all those are things that, I've heard from other writers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that, you've got that same mindset.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I do a lot of networking with other writers and I just, I talk to people and you never know who's going to respond back. Like, don't be intimidated by asking for help or talking to people because I know sometimes I get intimidated by, oh, they're so great. Oh, this person's so perfect. But sometimes people really can sense your drive and that can bring people around you that work with you that you might not think you're going to get. So don't be afraid to do that.
Within this writer community, I'm continually surprised how approachable many people are.
You'd be surprised.
Willing to help each other. And that's just wonderful.
And it doesn't have to be the same genre because there's a person in my writing group and he has published, no, he has sold over 300,000 books. And he told me, and he writes like totally different stuff than I do. And I'm like asking him questions and we did some videos, we did 1 or 2 videos together and a couple of articles together. And he was very helpful and giving advice. And at first, if you had thought that he sold so many books, he would be like, oh, I don't want to talk to people. But he was really, because every week I would come with stuff and we'd be working on stuff and he was very helpful. So, you never know who's going to help you. So don't count yourself out.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, we all have to start somewhere, right? So It's good when people remember that.
And people are kind. I mean, people are kind and they will try to help you because they understand that they went through that. People who have achieved success understand what it takes to get there. So they're going to see you and say, oh, well, this person is doing like I was doing. So maybe I could give her some pointers here or there. It certainly can't hurt to ask.
Right. Well, Candace, it's really wonderful to be able to catch up with you again. And, I wish you all the best with your new book and with your career beyond that.
Oh, thank you so much. And I appreciate you letting me come here and talk about my book. And you being so helpful. I really love the publishing in color. I really got a lot of, Lisa, she was so helpful. Other people you have were so helpful and like giving advice and encouraging. And I'm so glad I was able to participate.
Good.
Well, that.
I'm glad it worked out. And, I think it's, a venue that can help a lot of folks. So we'll continue it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.